Good evening and welcome to the Angela Ray Show. It is hump day. It is Wednesday. I hope that all of you have had a great day and are beginning to wind down for the evening. It is halfway through to the weekend. As I have been watching social media, I see that some of you throughout the country, your children are back in school. And I know whether you are choosing to send your students to school or whether you are homeschool, I can imagine either one of those decisions definitely difficult. So my prayers are with you to so that your children are covered and you are covered no matter what decision you had to make during this very challenging time. We are in the midst of our lemonade series, from lemons to lemonade. And oh my gosh, last night was absolutely amazing. Monday night was amazing. And I know that tonight will be too. For all of you who are catching the show on the replay, I appreciate your support. Thanks so much for hanging out with us here at the Angela Ray Show. For everyone else, if you are watching the broadcast live on tonight, do me a favor. Once you get on the broadcast, go ahead and slide in the comments and let me know by a number, just an estimate, whether this is your first time watching the show, if you think this is your 10th or 15th, or some of you have probably watched it so much you probably don't have a number, and that is okay as well. But would love to shout out all of our first time viewers here at the Angela Ray Show, and definitely really appreciate those of you who are on night after night after night, who continue to share the broadcast with your friends, with your family, as well as with your followers. As we always do, I'm going to go ahead and get started tonight with our Ray of Motivation moment. And for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I'm going to share a quote from one of the great philosophical teachers that has really made a difference in my life, and that is Dr. Wayne Dyer. He passed away just a few years ago at the age of 80. And one of the first programs I saw Dr. Dyer speak, he shared this quote, which is, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. When you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. And that quote sounds like a nice kind of play on words, but I have found it to be so true in so many examples in my life. Everything from seeing something as bad and taking that same exact thing that happened and looking at it as a blessing, looking at it as a pause as opposed to a punishment, just really changing my perspective on the exact same thing that may have been causing me angst, that may have been causing me worry, anxiety, or fear. Just tweaking it just a little bit so that I look at it differently. I honestly had that epiphany on last night. So for our Ray of Motivation moment, I just want to remind you all, remind those who are aware, and share with those who've never heard it before. When you change the way that you look at things, the things you look at change. And that is your Ray of Motivation moment for this Hump Day edition of the Angela Ray Show. Well, definitely have some people. Hey, Cassandra Jolliffe. Cassandra Jolliffe she is a very talented host a show over on Facebook as well as YouTube. Wow, so y'all nervous tonight. I have all the hosts on tonight. LaDonna is also a host. She has a show that she hosts on Instagram called Conversations with LaDonna. So I'm excited to have all of you all on tonight. Well, as I mentioned, we're in the midst of a series called From Lemons to Lemonade, and it is all about people who have overcome some extraordinary circumstances. And I'm very excited for my guest on tonight. He's a graduate of Morehouse College in Atlanta. He is also a graduate of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. At one time, he worked as a voiceover artist as well as a content creator for Sensation Station Network. These days, he is the owner and operator of Full Spectrum Enterprises. He is the host of J Dub's Journal. He has a web series and he has a brand new book dropping this fall. However, on October 1st, 2015, in an attempt to be a blessing to a friend, life as he knew it came to a stop. And when he reached that fork in the road, he decided to take the road less traveled. And tonight, we're going to find out what a difference that choice has made. So please help me welcome Jay Wilson. Jay, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray show on tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and pleasure to be here.
Yeah, like I got all these hosts who are watching tonight. You are also a broadcaster as well. So the pressure is on for me. I got to be in my, I have to bring my A game on tonight. Like all the professionals are in the house.
Yeah, yeah. And shout out to all the professionals watching. We are a tight knit group, and only we know what we go through. So yeah, shout out to
Man,
everybody.
listen, I do not have to tell you. So, I know that things are slowly getting back to normal for many people. As I was mentioning during my show opening, I've noticed that some parents have started posting pictures from the first day of school for their
Mhm.
students. But during the downtime, what were you doing during all this time of staying at home and social distancing?
Well, I have a book that I am fighting to get out this fall because I've had quite a journey with that book, self-publishing, and then at the last minute making a U-turn to actually go the more traditional route. And
Mm-hmm.
as I was U-turning to the traditional route, COVID hit. So then I kind of
Ah,
went back to self-publishing, I just got a call to see if I want to pitch again and everything. So it is like this roller coaster ride, even with just the release of the book. The manuscript is pretty much finished. I was in phase 3 of editing and doing the cover art and things of that nature. So I've been really, really busy with the book. I've also like to shout out a gentleman by the name of Mike Manley. He's also a Morehouse graduate, and he hired me to be a voiceover and editor of his documentary about Henry McNeil Turner High School here in Atlanta. And so I've been one of the co-editors on that film, and with a fellow by the name of Roy Christian. Shout out
mm-hmm.
to him. He's the director of the film. And so I've been busy. Thank God during this time I've had work and I've been busy. And then every day is quite honestly every day is a different challenge and a different battle with my health and things of that nature. And then being a dad and a husband is plenty of time taken up, to be quite honest with you.
You have a lot on your plate, is what it
Yes,
sounds like. And the
yes, I do.
pandemic not necessarily changed that.
No, not at all. Not at all, really.
So you have worked as a broadcaster.
Mhm.
You're one of the founding members of this online station. Tell me about that venture.
Yeah, it was interesting. The gentleman who took over the station and really brought it to what it is today, Sensation Station Network. You can go on Facebook and find them today, and they play they play your top 100 type music and everything. But it's much more than that. It's talk shows on there, community type talk shows, and kind of like an Entertainment Tonight feel there as well. But that station started out as like an auto programmed robotic computer station that was just running on autopilot. And a
Okay.
gentleman by the name of Sean Prime, his name is Sean Hunter, but he goes by Sean Prime, stage name. I'm good friends with his brother, John. And he was looking to take over the station and rebrand it to what it was and to what it is now. And we happen to both be Connecticut School of Broadcasting graduates. And so, with John knowing that, he said, "Man, you need to give my brother a call because he's looking for somebody who actually has the know-how and the skills to help him really get this station off the ground." So, I was blessed to be in a position to help him build that station essentially from the ground up. When it had white walls, we had no t-shirts at the time. We had no paraphernalia, no swag, nothing. It
Mm-hmm.
was just white walls, 2 computers, and earphones like this, not even like the real headphones, and a dusty old board, and we made it work. And then today, you should see the studio. It's crazy. It's located actually in Midtown, right next to the Atlanta Fish Market on Far Road. So it was a quite an experience building that from the ground up, cold calling people to see if they want to advertise, trying to book guests. I did it all.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to touch the boards and produce. I eventually got my own show, J-Dub's Journal, where that originated, and the full spectrum actually is what my radio show was. So I had an opportunity to work with a plethora of artists, plethora of broadcasters. We interviewed a lot of people, some famous, some not so famous, some now famous that weren't at that time. This is back in 2010, 2011, 2012. And it was a blessing to be able to have that experience to help build something from the ground up.
So you mentioned that you were working on a voiceover for someone's book during the pandemic, and I know as a voiceover artist, you probably work on all kinds of projects, everything from audiobooks to commercials to you name it, everything.
Mhm.
What has been one of your favorite projects thus far to work on as a voiceover artist?
Um, my favorite is probably going back to the radio station because we had to do our own station imaging. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm originally from North Jersey, Essex County. And I was uh, I was raised around an Italian community. And so I can do the impressions. I can do, what people outside of there think all the Sopranos talk like. Forget about it. What are you doing, Wilson? What are you doing? Get him, come on. What are you? Get out of here. So I can go into that mode real quick. And I was able to develop a character for the radio station when it's like, the Sensation Station Network, if you're riding around town in your IROC Z, so I created a character and I was able to do the station imaging with that. That was my favorite of all time because we did a whole series of those. And,
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I always did impressions of my teachers and things of that nature where they walk out the room and sometimes they come back and, I think they're in trouble. And then after class, Mr. Wilson, I want to talk to you. And, you have a future if you keep working at it. It was so good that they didn't even get mad. You know what I mean? So I put that skill to the test. So that was good because I was able to explore my creativity with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it morphed into doing more traditional commercials, for my sister's company at the time, my sister and brother-in-law's company at the time. And then even for my younger sister who worked out in California at the company she was working for, the more traditional voiceovers where, you have more of the announcer voice and, tune in today and, that kind of thing. So I have a range and I'm able to use it. And it's really been a blessing to do that.
Well, one of our very loyal viewers here at the Angela Ray Show, Edwin Evans, has a question for you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see it. What is the difference between a broadcaster and on-air personality? That is a great question. And I'm glad Edwin it was.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Edwin.
Edwin.
Edwin, that's a great question. See, a broadcaster is basically what I just described about my experience at the radio station. A broadcaster is somebody who can touch the boards, be a board op, can produce, can go and do voiceovers, can do on-air talent like Angela is doing right now. A broadcaster is a jack of all trades. And, I know there's been that saying, jack of all trades, master of none. And that's baloney. Don't even buy into that because in broadcasting, the more you can do, when you can board op, when you can produce, which is different. A lot of people think board opping is just producing board opping. No, board opping is just riding gain on volume and everything and stuff like make sure people sound good. Producing is the flow of a show, booking guests, things of that nature. But then a lot of times people start out, and Angela, you can attest to this, people start out behind the scenes doing board opping or producing, but they really are an on-air talent, but they have to wait their turn. And
Mm-hmm.
so they do all that stuff first. And then the next thing you know, welcome to the full spectrum. My name is Jay Wilson. And then they can do this. So a broadcaster can do all of that. An on-air personality is more somebody, and I'm not throwing shade by saying it's more somebody like a Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey's not running any boards. He's not producing. He can executive produce his TV shows, but he's not producing that stuff. He's just the talent. And so the person with the microphone who's on air talking, that's your on air personality. The people who make everything else go, they're all broadcasters technically.
And it looks like you have a fan who's listening on tonight as well.
Yes, that actually is my aforementioned superstar of a sister, Jeanette Jordan. Shout out to her. I'm actually helping her with her podcast as well. And the company she used to work for, she struck out on her own, is what she was hooking me up with. So doing that was more traditional. She's out there in Silicon Valley. So, hey, Jeanette, thank you for tuning in. I love you. Kiss my nieces. And, she has actually a little background herself in that she interned at a radio station. So it was actually kind of fun because when you grow up with a sibling, there's things you don't realize you never even did with them. So it took me until I'm 40 years old before I ever worked with her in this capacity. It was just crazy to have that. But and she's tough. She's a tough cook. She knows what she wants. She wants it done a certain way, and she's a total boss. My sister rocks. Both my sisters, I love them dearly. But I've had a chance to work with both of my sisters actually. My older sister's company, that is no longer with anymore, and then my younger sister's company, she's no longer with. But I've had a pleasure of working with both of them, and it's been a blessing. Yeah.
Speaking of work and blessings, back in October of 2015, you were
Mm.
looking to be a blessing to one of your friends,
Yes.
and made a turn into a neighborhood and kind of got turned around a little bit. You didn't know exactly where you were.
Right.
And so it was time to reach out to figure out, am I at the right place? And something happened. Take us back to that day.
Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, it was a Thursday, October 1st, 2015, and the crazy part about it is I had just started Full Spectrum. Just formulating the idea in my mind. I wasn't even up on LinkedIn and everything and stuff like that. I had really nothing together. It was like literally grassrootsing it and bootstrapping it. And, from my days at the radio station, I was building Rolodexes and things of that nature. So I actually was like reaching out to people via different means, Google Plus or whatever, Facebook and everything. And through another colleague of mine, a gentleman who I will have remain nameless, who had a business in Forsyth, Georgia, which is very near Macon, reached out to me and asked me, could I come down and take a look at his business? And so that's the reason I was even down there to begin with, because I live in Fayetteville, Georgia, and it's less than an hour, but it's a little haul from there. Now, my friend, who I used to be a mentor to at Target Corporation, she lived in that area. And so I said, you know what? She had contacted me because she was still at Target. Target had booted me. My position no longer existed in the company. And so I had a severance and everything, and they booted me out of there. So she was still there, and she was looking to finally move up, because when she was my mentee, I used to be on her about going back to school, getting a piece of paper, because that's what Target valued back then. And in order for her to move up, she was going to need that piece of paper. So I was like, hey, this is holding you back. And I want you to really think about what you got to do for your future. So anyway, fast forward, she contacts me. I think it was a couple of weeks before that. It was like in September, August, and said, hey, I'm still at Target, and I'm ready to get that promotion, but I need your help. I want to go over the interview process. So we tried it like this. And, you have to understand, this is 2015, and just in 5 years, the smoothness that I'm hearing in this transmission, it was not on Google Hangouts back then, and so it was hard to prep her for the interview. And so when this opportunity came up to go to this gentleman's business, and it was a nearby town, nearby Forsyth, I jumped at the chance to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be in your area. Let me swing by you first, because I have a 9:30 appointment with him. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I got to get to you by like 8, and I can give you a strong 60 minutes. I'm going to grill you on this interview, get you ready, and you'll be in there. This is my mentee. I want her to do well. So that's just the background of why I was even down there. So I made that turn, as you alluded to. I was listening to my sports talk radio station, not even paying attention. And Google tells me turn left right here. And I was like, oh, right here. Now, the problem with that was I entered into a building that was nondescript, kind of, brown doors, brown shutters. Um, Nothing stood out about the complex. And there was some shrubbery and brush that was covering the sign of the complex. So I couldn't
Mhm.
see if I was in the right place or not. So as uh, as God would have it, and I just don't say fate or luck, and I say as God would have it, I turned left because when you enter into place, you can kind of only turn left or right. So I just picked one. I just turned left and I parked into this parking space. And I didn't even fully put it in park. I kind of had like the emergency brake on because I knew I was going to call her, find out if I was in the right place. Where's your apartment? Let me get to you because I know I'm on a schedule and I have to get going. And so when I made that call, all of a sudden, and we're starting to talk and we're like brother and sister. So I was like, hey, big head, where you at? She's like, I've been waiting on you. Where you at? And I'm just trying to figure out where I am while we're just going back and forth teasing each other. A white pickup truck comes blazing in, and I mean on like two wheels, and screeches to a halt, jumps out the car so fast he's at my driver's side door before I'm looking in my rear view, and he's already at my driver's side door. And I said, oh my goodness, what is going on? And so I'm still on the phone at this point, and the man just knocks on my window because I had it rolled up, and he knocks and says, and he screams at me, hey man, what are you doing here? Just like that, and veins popping out of his head, Angela, and I'm just like, hmm? Okay, did I blow past the security gate and I didn't see it or whatever? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I can clearly see this man is agitated, but I'm thinking it can't be at me. I just got here, you know. And so I dropped the phone and I'm looking to my left and I'm seeing what he's doing. He's on the phone and he yells into the phone, and he must have already been on the phone. He yells into the phone and some expletives. I'm sick of this bleep, bleep, bleep. And out of nowhere, after he says that, he just reaches up, boom, blows out my front window of my driver's side door. And you have to understand, like, I just got there. I'm talking 60 seconds pulling in. I just got there. And within 60 to 120 seconds, my window is blown out with a bullet from a Magnum pistol. And so I'm really confused at this point. That bullet goes through my window, hits me right below the hip bone, shatters my entire leg. I mean, my leg is shattered and it's dangling. And forgive me if anybody out there is squeamish, but I'm just trying to tell it as it really happened. And so I'm panicked, obviously, and saying, oh my God, my leg is broke. He just shot me. He just shot me. So I'm thinking the man shot me. He ran off. Unfortunately, while I'm holding my leg together, I hear click, 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 the gun jam. And I turn, he's still there. And I'm realizing he's actually trying to kill me at this point. Once again, everybody, I don't know why. I just got there. I don't know him. I haven't done anything yet. I just got there. So I'm very distraught, obviously, at this point. But, you don't have time to really think about it. It's fight or flight. So at that
Mm.
point, because the gun jams, I drag myself over to the passenger side door and I push my way out. And I'm thinking that I could get out and actually like maybe run, hobble on one leg or something, or get to my feet. Obviously, I couldn't. And I just fell right to the ground. And when I fell to the ground, I was essentially crawling on my hands and knees. And this was the realest moment of my life at this point. I'm looking through the front, because when you're on the ground, you can see through the front two tires, like in between. And I see his feet just come across, you know, the front two tires. And I'm like, man, he's actually coming after me. He really wants to hurt me. He's really trying to kill me. And at this point, I have to tell you that this has never happened to me before or since, obviously not just getting shot, but what I'm about to tell you right here is I'm on the ground. And so I look up and the sun is in my eyes, kind of like this light is in my eyes, and the sun is in my eyes, and he comes and blocks it. So I get a good look at his eyes. And if anybody out there has ever said heard the phrase, there was no life in his eyes, this is what I'm getting ready to tell you. I looked at him and I saw a zombie. I saw no life. He wasn't
Mm.
responding. It's like he was taken over. And I'm not even sensationalizing or anything. Like, it's real. There was no life in his eyes. And so I grabbed him by the bottom of his shirt tail. I reached up and I tried to plead for my life. I say, brother, I don't know what's going on, but you don't have to do this, man. You really don't have to do this. And I'm begging at this point. for my life to be spared. And so of course at that moment though, he wasn't hearing that. He wasn't there with us at this point. And he starts fiddling with the gun. He knocks my hand off of his shirt. He fiddles with the gun and he gets it clear. And I heard it get clear. And I'm not even a gun enthusiast, and I knew what it was. And at that point, he puts the gun to the side of my head right here. And now I want everybody to buckle up and understand that the supernatural was already in play. But what I'm about to tell you is 100% true, and it's God as my witness. And this is how the Almighty works. I heard an audible voice at this moment when the gun goes to my head, and it was a command. It was sharp as day. I mean, it's clear as day. I can hear it now. And it said, turn your head. Just like that. Just turn your head. I didn't have enough time to think. And I wanted to be like, who just said that? But instinctually, I just turned my head. So when he had it to the side of my head, I turned my head. And when I did, it's the moment he pulled the trigger, he shot me right in the back of the head. I have a bullet lodged in the back of my head right now as we speak. So my hair has grown a little bit. You can't really see it. But when I cut my hair low, and I usually keep it low, you can actually still see where he shot me. At that point, I fall out. That's the second shot, one to my leg, one to the back of my head. I'm now knocked out. I don't feel anything. I don't see anything. And that was actually merciful because he proceeded to continue to shoot me 3 more times. Once he shot me right here to my throat. I'm not going to lift up my shirt. And my wife is probably watching. She hates it when I do that. But I have a nice long scar because I got shot in my belly button. And then I got shot in my ribs. So he was absolutely trying to kill me. Now, if you don't mind, Angela, I'm going to double back real quick and I'm trying to speed through the story because it's long and convoluted and I don't want to take too much time. But when I pulled up to that parking space, there was an elderly lady who was sitting on a chair outside of her apartment door and she was smoking a cigarette. And when I wasn't sure where I was, I wanted to kind of roll my window down and say, excuse me, ma'am, do I happen to be in this Piedmont Hills apartments? But I didn't know it at the time. So am I in such and such? Because I was on I was getting ready to call Priscilla, but I hadn't called her yet. And when I took a look at this woman's face, she kind of looked at me like, I don't know who you are, but don't talk to me. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to leave her alone. And that same lady, when the gentleman who shot me pulled up behind me, she could see it from her vantage point. And I guess for hers, it looked like it was going to be just a fist fight or something because she could see he was getting out the car fuming. So she goes inside and it's like, minds her own business. Like, oh, they're going to fight, whatever. I ain't going to. She didn't know he had a gun. When the gun goes off the first time, that's a quiet apartment complex. No crime happens there. Nothing like this has happened ever before. And so all of a sudden, everybody's like, was that a gunshot? And she was one of the ones who did it. Then the gun goes off 2, 3, 4, 5. Now everybody's like, oh my God. By this point, by the 4th and 5th shot, you're now eyewitnesses. By the way, this was 8:30 in the morning, everybody. So I got shot in broad daylight. And when she looked through her window, she knew the gentleman who was shooting me. Come to find out that him and his children's mother, actually stayed in that apartment complex. Just a few days earlier, everyone, this gentleman had caught the children of his mother in bed with another man. That other man is not much taller than me, has my same skin complexion, and drove a car almost identical to mine. So when I pulled up, he thought I was him. So with the history that they've had, and they've had struggles recently, he thought I was the guy that he just caught her in bed with. Because when he did catch them in bed, he's a regular guy, didn't even own a gun. That gun he shot me with was borrowed. That truck he was doing all that in was borrowed. And he didn't realize he had shot the wrong guy. And so she lifts up her window. The elderly lady lifts up her window and says, stop shooting that boy. You're going to kill him. Like an old grandma would wag her finger at you. And that's what snapped him out of his fog to where he could. And this is according to the police report. This is the only reason I know is I was knocked out. But my police report is like 50 pages long. So it's like a novel. And when I'm looking at it and I'm reading this, I'm in awe because she is essentially scolding him like a grandmother does to a grandson. And that's what woke him up, snapped him out. And he takes a look at me, bends down and looks up to the sky and is like, oh, I got the wrong guy. Now he jumps in his car and he's off to the races because now he's back to life, back to reality. Realize he's messed up. Now he's on the run. Here's where the story gets really, really crazy. If it
Oh, it
isn't,
wasn't. Wait a minute. It wasn't crazy yet.
it,
I was. I thought I was in the crazy, but it ain't crazy yet.
there's levels to this,
There's
and
levels to this. Okay. Well,
I'm trying
let
to
me get
tell it.
comfortable. Let me get
Yeah,
comfortable.
I'm trying to tell it as quickly as I can because, like I said, it's layers to this, but I don't want to draw it out too long. This young man who shot me, his name was Milton Bowden Jr. Okay, his nickname was Lil Man. Mind you, Priscilla, my friend Priscilla, who was on the phone with me at the time, she heard all this. Okay, she heard the gunshots go off. So now she's jumped in her car. She hangs up with me. She's jumped in her car, and she comes to get me because she knows I'm in the apartment complex now, or as you hear the gunshots and stuff. So now, as she's jumping in her car, coming to find out about me, the white pickup truck speeds right past her, and they almost collide. She slams on her brakes. And it's like, and for a split second, she's like, oh my God, is that the guy who just did? And then she said, forget him. Let me get to my friend. He's on the ground bleeding. And she said she could see me from all the way down the parking lot. It's a long, long parking lot. She could see me all the way down. And she said when she got up on me, I was obviously bleeding profusely. I had actual teeth on the sidewalk because the bullet that entered here, and forgive me, anybody who's squeamish, I'm just trying to tell a story. The bullet, and one hand to God, this really happened. The bullet went in here. If you can still see the scar, I don't know if you can see it right there. Ping ponged around my throat and blew out the side of my jaw. Opened up a hole in my face. I'm missing teeth still down there. Okay. Got some false teeth up top, but I had a hole in my face. That's how powerful the bullet was. But I want you guys to understand, I got shot directly here. So this is how God was already working. I told you several miracles were at play. Instead of the bullet going through my throat and out the back of my L5, L6 vertebrae, it bounced around, but was strong enough to blow out the side of my face. Okay. Physics can't explain that. Doctors and surgeons can't explain that. So once again, that's the Almighty at play. When she gets to me, she was like, I wasn't breathing. She thought I was dead. And she put her hand on me and started praying. Okay. She's the daughter of an old country preacher. She just put her hand on me and started praying. And by that point, the EMTs got to me. Now, I told you it was crazy. The gentleman,
there's levels to this. Okay.
The levels to this. And it's a lot of moving parts. This is how you know it's God involved. A lot of moving parts. The gentleman that she almost hit, who shot me, is on a police chase, but the EMTs get to me. They get to me in about 4.5, 5 minutes from the time the call went out. And I think the call went out around the third or fourth shot. Now, the reason that's significant, everyone, is because in that county, Monroe County, the average response time for the EMS and all that was about 10, 12 minutes, average response time, because it's kind of spread out. It's a little country down there. And they got to me in half the time. The reason was I found out later on, there was a little old blue-haired lady who passed out earlier that morning, right before I arrived at the apartment complex. EMS was already administering aid to her, so they were in the area already. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This is how God works, everybody. This is what I'm saying. The miracles were already in motion. Now, the reason why I tell you this story gets even crazier is because the gentleman that shot me, Milton Bowden Jr., was my friend's nephew.
Priscilla's nephew.
Her family shot me. She didn't know this. He didn't know I was there for her.
Right.
He asked me the question, man, what are you doing here? And I raised my hands and I said, I'm just here to see a family friend. I didn't say her name. I knew he had a gun, but I couldn't see it, but I knew he had one. And so I was afraid that I would bring her into whatever. If he's going to rob me, just rob me, carjack me, just leave me my life. That's all I want. Here, you can have my wallet, which I didn't even have on me because I changed pants before I jumped in the car all the way from Fayetteville, rode all the way down there, riding dirty. And I didn't know. So I just didn't want to get her messed up. So I didn't say
Mm-hmm.
her name. Can you imagine if I said her name? This was her
Right.
nephew that shot me. They happen to live in the same apartment complex everybody. Now, I know what everybody's thinking. Well, why didn't they know? My friend, God bless her, was working 2 jobs, 12 to 14 hours minimum a day. She leaves her house in the morning, comes back at night. Now, Milton was estranged from his family because he was having a lot of problems, but he
Mm-hmm.
was starting to have emotional problems years before. And as a lot of us in our community, we don't get help with it. And so, as he was getting estranged from his family, and most of the time gathered grandmas for Sunday dinner, his grandmother is Priscilla's mom, because that's her nephew. All of a sudden, he doesn't show up, but he was like, "Hey, where are you?" "Oh, I'm living in Macon now. Everything's good. I got a decent job." He didn't. He was struggling with money. He was struggling with employment. He was making and trying to make ends meet, odd jobbing it, all that kind of stuff. But he was afraid to say what the truth was. He was living right there in Forsyth, not
Mm.
Macon. So when he moved into the apartment complex, his own aunt didn't even know it because she leaves at 7 in the morning, comes back at 8, 9 at night. She never knew. So
Wow.
that's how both of them could be occupying an apartment in the same complex. And neither one of them knew that.
Mm-hmm.
All that had to be working in conjunction with the way the rest of this story was going. And it's just amazing. And that's only half of it. But I'm going to speed it up a little bit because not only that, I need you to guys to understand God was at play here. I was told by Milton's mother, who I've actually grown a relationship with. Her name is Josephine. Josephine, if you're watching, God bless you. She's become a friend, actually, and later I can explain why that is. But continuing on that day, when he gets into the truck and he jumps in the truck and starts the chase, an APB is going out. Black male, beard, white T-shirt, suspected attempted homicide, all that, blah, blah, all that jargon. Now, there is a police car that is able to kind of catch up to him, and the police car um, recognizes him. And the problem was the vehicle has been impounded before, and the police captain, who's hearing it over the radio, says, I've impounded that car before. Oh, you do a quick search on the computer and you see a name coming up. But the description that was coming back as a shooter was not the same guy.
Because he
So
had
now
borrowed the car, right?
he borrowed the car from a friend who was a
Mm-hmm.
predicate felon, essentially,
Mm.
an arm long list of felonies. And the gun, too, was borrowed as well. And so, because once again, Milton was a regular guy like me with wife and kids, trying to make ends meet in a tough economy, dropped out of school, and has been struggling ever since he had dropped out of school years earlier. That's just who he was. He was a regular guy just like me. And he finds his the mother of his children in bed with another man for the third time, if I have that correct. There was multiple times. I think it was the third time. So he lost it at the end of his rope. So back to the police chaser saying, yeah, that description's not matching this and the other. An officer sees who it is and radios to the captain, who is acting captain at the time and now is the full-fledged captain of that police department. Hey, man, I think this is your nephew. Yes, that's right, everybody. The police captain is Priscilla's brother.
Oh,
I
you did tell us to buckle up, didn't you? Okay.
So there's levels to it.
Ooh.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
I'm not done with that. So to keep your seatbelt on, the sheriff of the county, because down here in Georgia, we have a lot of police. We have one for the town and one for the county as well. Sheriffs for the county. The acting sheriff at the time is Priscilla's other brother. Yeah, yes. Priscilla's other brother is the sheriff. So two police officer brothers and their nephew commits this crime in their town. And if
Mm.
that wasn't enough, the dispatch who took the call from 911 is the sheriff's daughter, Milton's cousin. So this was a family affair. This ended up becoming a family affair. And when I spoke to Josie, Milton's mother, she told me there was a reason why that was happening. There was a family dynamic there that apparently wasn't always healthy. And I'm not trying to put them on blast or anything, but this is real talk, and we have to talk about this in our community in America. We have mental health issues in our community and we don't get them addressed. That's been
Right.
seen as weak. That's been seen as, well, they can afford that, we can't. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm pleased with how many people have started to shun that thinking and say, no, we're going to get some therapy. Because I believe if that happened for Milton, he may be alive today. And um, this may have never happened, but everything happens for a reason. So I don't spend too much time thinking about that. What I do know is there was a murder suicide attempt that was going to happen. See, what happened was he was waiting for the mother of his children to come back to the apartment, and he knew she would have the kids with her. So Milton wrote this out. He had planned to shoot her, kill the kids, and then turn it on himself. A classic murder suicide plot because he had given up. And the reason, and only just not him giving up, but he understood that if he was going to commit suicide, he was going to leave his kids. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving his kids. So in the twisted thinking, he was thinking that was providing mercy. They're young enough. I'm just going to take them out so they don't have to live without either parent.
So he left a note with these details?
He wrote a note to his mother because what he was planning to do was do it and have the note where it
Someone could
occurred.
find it. Mm-hmm.
Right. But he ended up jumping back in the car, never got inside the apartment because I was parked in their parking space. I didn't know it.
Yeah.
So everybody, God used me. I'm convinced God used me, placed me where I didn't know where I was going. He placed me in a spot. And because I had a car that was almost identical to the car he had just seen, and then I parked in a spot, now the question, what are you doing here? Now makes sense. You
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying? So I prevented a murder of a woman and her two children who
Mm-hmm.
were very small at the time. And if I had to take the 5 bullets to prevent that, then it was worth it. And, I have lifelong struggles that I'm dealing with. I just recently got out the hospital. I've recently been dealing with, doctor's office and ultrasounds and MRIs and tests. And I've had I'm talking about in the last week, complications stemming from this incident. But what I want everybody to know as I wrap up this story is that, when I got to the hospital, and obviously I made it to the hospital, I'm not here talking today, but I need everybody to understand I'm a broadcaster. I make money with this voice. And I lost it. I got shot directly here. So I lost my voice and I'm in a hospital and I was having a crisis of faith during that time period in my life. A lot of things were not going right. And I was almost feeling spiritually abandoned. But God knows me and God and I have a relationship, and I've gone back and forth where I've had crises of faith, but then I come back, I'm sorry, God, I didn't mean it, type of deal. And I was going through one of those periods. And the amazing part is God silenced me for this amazing thing to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why I'm writing the book and why I'm telling you this testimony right now. I'm in the hospital and I'm angry. I have a metal rod in my leg now because that's the only way it would be stabilized. I've lost a gallbladder because the bullet ping-ponged around in my insides, exploded my gallbladder. I had bile going everywhere. I had a blood transfusion. I had a trach in my throat that was like this big, sitting right here. I couldn't talk. Obviously, just excruciating pain. I'm angry. I'm ticked off, and I wanted revenge. And I didn't know who shot me, and I didn't know why. So when I'm coming to, and trying to get my bearings straight, and this is 2015, and I told you I'm from New Jersey. The Mets were in the World Series that year, so I'm watching on TV. It's the only thing bringing me joy at this moment. And this was the playoff part before they got to the World Series. And I hear a voice again, just like I heard, it said, turn your head. I hear the exact same audible voice that says, without, without any hesitation, I heard it. Forgive him.
Mm.
Who said that?
Did you adjust the television to see if the channels was crossed in the game and it was the Jerry Farwell was on the other channel?
You know it. You know, I said, okay, let me volume down. Nobody's around. Nobody's around. So I was like, you know what? I'm on morphine. I'm on tramadol. I'm on this. I'm on that. Hydrocodone. I got a cocktail of drugs that I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I'm high. Whatever. Yeah, I didn't hear that. You can't play with God. Your arms are too short to box with God. I'm telling you right now. Day 2, it gets stronger. You
This
gotta
voice.
forgive him. The voice.
Okay.
The voice gets stronger. You have to forgive him. And now I'm just, excuse me, friend, I'm pissed at this point. I'm just like, whatever. Somebody gonna stop talking to me because I'm sitting up here being, I'm sitting in my hospital bed I'm like this. I can't speak, so I look crazy. I'm hitting the nurse button, trying to be like, I just want the nurse to tell me who is talking. Could you please stop talking to me and stop telling me to forgive? I don't even know the dude's name, blah, blah, blah. So you forgive who? I'm literally having all this internally. I can't speak. This is the genius of God. Day 3. So I ignore it again, turn the TV back up. Day 3. If y'all know anything about the Bible, you know things happen in threes. Day 3 comes. My wonderful nurse, her name is Delois. And this is what's so funny. I took to her because I have an aunt named Dolores. And I had blood in my ear and everything. I couldn't hear right. So I'm thinking the whole time her name is Dolores. So I kind of attached myself to her. And she took good care of me. She's on the phone getting off the end of her shift. And she's like, yeah, girl, I'm on my way to the book club. This and yeah, I got the book. It's something about forgiveness and this. And I said, no way. No. This is some Bible stuff that, be God be talking to you. And like, no, that don't happen. So no voice now, everybody. And I wave my hands at her like, hey, but I can't talk. She thinks I'm waving goodbye. Bye, baby. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you.
And I'm like, oh, no, you can't be serious. End of the shift, late at night. And I'm sitting up in my bed, looking up to the ceiling like, okay, this is happening. This is happening. I now know this is happening. I'm being told to forgive this guy. I don't want to. I've been shot. I'm hurt. I'm angry. I'm confused. I don't even know what's going on. I feel like a failure. I didn't get to my friend. I feel like I can't protect my family, can't protect myself. Every gamut of the whole gamut of emotions, I'm running through them. And you want me to forgive? This is what I need everybody to know. At the moment I was commanded essentially to forgive, it became painfully obvious, and I stress painfully obvious, that I had a choice to make. I could forgive and see what happens, or I could just keep being mad. And my blood pressure, which was 200 it was over 200 on the diastolic, and the systolic was like over something crazy, like 160. It was way up there. And when I made the decision, I need everybody to know that I didn't have a promissory note that everything was going to be okay. And this is why in chapter 5 of my book that's coming out, I write about the expedience of obedience. I feel like when you get a spiritual command, you have a choice. We are free moral agents. We can ignore it, or we could step into it. I chose to step into it, but I didn't know what was coming behind it. I had no promises. But see, when God has a promise for you, when God has a message for you, there is an awesome promise behind you. You may not know when it is. You may not know when it's coming, but it is coming. And the God that I know didn't make me wait. So as I'm saying this awful prayer, and by the way, I know how to pray. I had 2 deacon grandfathers, God rest their soul, taught me how to pray when I was a youngster. I know how to invoke the Holy Spirit. I know how to do all that. I can pray up a storm. This was the worst prayer of my life. Hey, God, if you don't mind, come in my heart and forget this guy because I don't want to. That was like the prayer. That was the prayer. And do you know that was the prayer that changed my life? Because I surrendered and I said, I can't do it. I don't have it in me to do it. I don't want to do it. I was honest. God just wants your honesty. He wants you to show up, and he wants your honesty and confess it to him, because he already knows too much from me. Well, I'm not telling him nothing he don't know. So at that moment, it's like, no, Jay, I got you. But I didn't know that at the time. I'm telling you the story now, but I didn't know that. And so that's at midnight. They come in your room, Angela, at 6 in the morning. They start poking on you, prodding on you, taking your blood pressure, your temperature, all that kind of stuff. They're drawing blood from you. And every time they come in the morning, I give them side eye like this. I'm like, oh, here they go. They got to change my trach. They stick a thing down your tube, down your throat. I'm like, they're choking. It's terrible. I've been through an ordeal. And when that happened, she takes my blood pressure. And this is 6 hours later, everybody. 6 hours later, 132 over 82. And I was like 212 over 1 something. Come on, Angela, come on. 6 hours later.
That powerful. Forgiveness is that powerful.
Physically powerful. We always talk about emotionally you'll heal and spiritually this and that. There is physical manifestations to forgiveness. And when you do not forgive everyone, it will physically manifest itself in the deterioration of your. I want everybody to know, as I'm wrapping the story up, is that was just the tip of the iceberg. I had a trach in my throat. They go by sizes 1 through 10. I had a size 8. I tell you, I had a big hole in my throat now. Once again, I'm a broadcaster. I make money with this voice. My healing was so rapid that 2 days after that prayer, they're trying to change the trach. They can't get it out. Tissue started growing around it. Tissue started growing around, and I had to yank it out my throat. The doctor, and he couldn't get it out. The lady who usually comes and changes couldn't get it out. She had to call the doctor who did the surgery to come and get it out. He knew what was happening in terms of I was healing. He didn't know why. Nobody knew why but me. I'm the only one who knew I said the prayer. All he knew was, oh, wow, he's healing. So what they wanted to do was take me from a size 8 to maybe a 4, and then let's see. It was let's see. I wasn't promised I was getting my voice back. And I need everybody to understand something. When I was a kid, I was in speech class. They had put me in speech class with kids that had like real disabilities and stuff like that, because I had a little bit of, slur in my speech and stuff like that. And there wasn't nothing really wrong with me, but I was sent to speech class, and that's why I talk with such diction now. And I ended up being a broadcaster. What somebody means for something, God has a whole nother plan for you. That's a whole nother story. But my voice is very important to me. I was not confident as a kid. I used to kind of mumble when I talk or whisper when I talk, look down at the ground, couldn't look you in the eye. And I found my voice going to Morehouse College. I found my voice going to Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I figured out what I wanted to do with the help of, family and friends and loved ones. And so my voice is probably the most important thing to me. I say to you right now, if I was in a wheelchair and had my voice, I'd have been happy. I know people hear that and been like, yeah. But if I was standing on my 2 feet and had no voice, I'd have been crushed. That's how important my voice is to me. And so God knows you. God knows your heart, and God knows who you are. So he gave me both. And because I surrendered, I didn't have the answer. I didn't know what happened. And I did not want to hear, but I was honest. And I said, I need you to do it. And there's things that the Almighty has done in this world that none of us can explain. You can't explain photosynthesis. You can't explain the 8 wonders or the 7 wonders of the world and everything and stuff. You can't explain any of that. And yet it's before. You can't explain the Grand Canyon, how it got carved out. So we already know there are miracles in front of us every day. And this was just one of the latest ones for me. And that's what I want everybody to know.
So Edwin had a question. I saw it earlier. I'll just bring it back to you. I know that you mentioned, even this week you had to go to the hospital for some lingering effects from the shooting. But for your new normal, how long did it take life to get to your new normal after the shooting?
That's a great question. Because you know what I found out about new normal, Edwin, and everybody out there? It keeps changing. It keeps becoming new. So that first new normal was pretty tough. Like the end, because this happened October 2015. So you're talking about, let's go into holiday season, January 2016. I went from crutches to a cane. I had a walker in the hospital. and then went to crutches, and then went to a cane. So my normal kept changing. So it's hard to pinpoint an exact answer of that question per se in the way in the way he's asking it. But it took a few months to learn how to walk right with the crutches, and then it took another few months to learn how to walk with my gait correctly with the cane. But I mean, be quite honest, for a guy who was shot 5 times, I healed ridiculously. I really did. Physically, I healed ridiculously, to the tune of a year to the date, October 1st, 2016. I limped because I ain't really running, but I limped walked a 5K
Oh,
a
wow.
year later. So
Mm.
that's what God can do. And then after that, I had another new normal.
Mm-hmm.
Migraines were coming, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just it's an ongoing journey. What I say about forgiveness and everything that falls out from it is forgiveness is not a one-time thing. This is what I really want everybody to know. Forgiveness is a journey. It's not a destination. I've had to forgive Milton probably 5,000 times by now. Like every time I can't do something I used to do, I want to be like, dude shot me. When I can't play basketball with my son more in the driveway, I just want to, no, I want to choke that. But then I have to bring it back and be like, you know what? I forgive it. I forgive it. I forgive the whole thing. And it's work. It's practice. So
So I'm sure
yeah.
that this is, even though you told us to buckle up, there are levels to it, to that day and to the journey there. So I don't want to I don't want to reveal everything, but I'm sure
Mhm.
this is just a small part of what you are going to reveal in your book that's dropping later this fall.
Yeah, it's more to it. Like we could be here for 2 hours, literally just the story alone. So yeah, there's plenty more. And what I really want people to know is um, there's actually more in the connection um, in degrees of separation that there is, but there's an even more connection with Milton and myself and his story, how he
Mm-hmm.
got to that point, my story, how I got to that point. Um, yeah, it's a not literally. I gave you the tip of the iceberg. I didn't even give you the ambulance ride. There's a whole story about the ambulance ride. It's unbelievable. And God is. I always say God has a sense of humor, but on this one, God showed out because I think what my message needs to be for everybody is what we think is magnanimous or this big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Snap of a finger for the creator of the universe. Okay, I just want
Absolutely.
everybody to know that if you understand how big the universe is, how vast the cosmos are, all the
Mm-hmm.
interstellar systems, how everything works, you have to understand that this is nothing for God. This was nothing. Give me my voice back. Give me my eyesight back. This was nothing for God. All He needed from me was my obedience and my surrender, and I gave it to Him.
Well, Jay's Instagram is down at the bottom of the screen. He did mention that he will be releasing his book later this fall, so you will be able to see more information, I'm sure, on social media. Edwin also wanted, he had posted a comment a little bit earlier about like, what can we do to support you? So I know that the 524, 5 shots to forgiveness,
Hmm.
those shirts are on your website. You also have
Yes.
bookmarks. Are there other ways that people can support?
Yeah. You can support. And what I'll do is I don't know if you have chat comments or put it on your Facebook or whatever, but yeah, 524 movement. I have a Cash App. I use that because I am selling T-shirts. They look just like this. You'll know my logo when you see it, and it's 5 shots to forgiveness. That's where the shots and forgiveness come in. I have long sleeve shirts. I have short sleeve shirts, and obviously the books will be coming out. What I'd love everybody to do is leave me an email, a message on my website, 524book.com. That's just 524book.com, and let me know that you tuned in to Angela's show tonight, and this is where you met me. And you can get a signed autograph copy of my book. And and I'll throw in a bookmark and everything with that. And yeah, you can really just support me just by buying a t-shirt or um, donating to the cause that I have coming later this year. I am building the 524 Foundation because proceeds from the sales of my stock, part of that is going to go to starting a foundation that serves the family and survivors of gun violence. And so, yeah, that's definitely how you can support me. And feel free to message me, man. I'm a talker. I'm a broadcaster, as you can see, and I probably went over your time, but I love conversing with people. I would love to hear about your story of what you might be going through of forgiveness. I want to talk to you about it because I have a saying that I talk about in my book, and I go into detail with it about the 5 shots moment. And basically, all that is, without going into too deep into it, is 5 shots moment. Everybody wasn't shot 5 times like me. That's just you rarely meet somebody who survived 5 gunshots, right? So I'm a very rare occurrence. I'm a rare breed to be walking around, and that's a blessing, right? But just because you were not shot 5 times, anybody listening to this today, and I really want you to understand this, just because you were not shot 5 times doesn't mean you didn't have a 5 shots moment in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That could have
Right.
been you were molested as a child. That could have been watching a domestic abuse between your parents. That could have been just living in a violent neighborhood and watching people die in front of you. It could have been told you were no good, you ain't never gonna make it in school by a bad teacher or a counselor or something. It doesn't matter. It could have been a car accident that left you without use of your limbs and things of that nature. It's your moment. It's your 5 shots moment. And you don't have to be shot 5 times to have a 5 shots moment. And what I want you to understand about that moment is it's not yours to go through alone. I had a wonderful wife, fantastic children, parents blessed from heaven with parents, a sister who flew from Oakland, California to come hold my hand, make me smoothies and boss them nurses around, an older sister who lived not far from me, who just took my kids in during like the whole time I was recovering. And look, man, I had an aunt that was by my bedside. I thought I was dreaming. I had multiple aunts. I have 4 aunts, multiple aunts coming in by my bedside. I'm thinking that can't be my aunt from the Midwest. Nah, because I'm thinking I woke up the next day and she was already at my bedside. Drove all night. God bless her and my uncle. Thank you. I love you. The other aunt coming from the look, man. I have family that's amazing, right? I had cousins coming to see me. I had a friend from Maryland drive down and see. Man, come on. So
Support. Yeah.
support, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
yours alone. It's not just your thing to go through. And I want everybody to understand that somebody somewhere is going through something. If you just knew it, man, you would not feel so alone. And everybody doesn't have a big family like me that's going to support. Some people feel alone because their family has abandoned them and left them now, but you are really not alone. One, God has got you. I promise you, God has got you, but you have to tap into that. And a lot of people don't know where they are in their faith, but that's okay. Give it a try and you'd be amazed what happens. And then don't be afraid to be vulnerable about this. You have to understand, I want to be a tough guy. I was always I'm a shorter guy, not very imposing, I can't even grow a beard. I'm 41 years old, so nothing about me is like, ooh, watch out for Jay. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't want to be taken for a joke. And, if I had to let you know I was nice with my hands when I was younger, then it does, don't bully me and stuff. But honestly, none of that matters when you're in a state like I was in a hospital bed and I can't even walk and I can't do
Right.
for myself. I couldn't go to the bathroom. So as a wrapping up this, I want everybody to understand that you're not alone. It's okay to be vulnerable about it. It's okay to be truthful. And it's actually, the situation demands for you to be truthful about it. Um, and that's the only way you can start healing. But you have to give up your pride. You have to give up revenge because revenge has never healed anybody.
And
It's
pride
never
comes
healed
before the fall.
all the time, Angela. And if you talk to people like I have, I've interviewed over 100 people for my book. And when I talk to people who have exacted revenge in some way, shape, or form, 2 days later, still don't feel no better. Still don't feel any better. So for all the people who think forgiveness is weak, they don't understand what forgiveness is. And if you don't mind, I would like to read 2 quotes if I have time. Do I have time?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. two quotes about forgiveness from these forgiveness cards that I have, and I can show you where to get these. They're a tremendous resource for me. I read them every day. And these are just two of about 2 dozen that I have. And one quote says, "The past is over. Forgiveness means giving up all hope of a better past." Now, when you hear that, you're like, giving up all hope of a better past. Past is over. You can't do anything about it. It happened. It's done. It's over with. And that's it, period. So there will never be a better past. It's already gone, right? There
Mm-hmm.
can be a better future. There can be a better present. There can be a better now. The only way that's going to happen is forgiveness, because forgiveness is really giving up that false hope that somehow you're going to wake up and this was all a dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one quote. And that quote was by Jack Cornfield. Harold Bloomfield wrote this quote: "Every day you don't forgive, it's as if you are ingesting tiny bits of poison." Now, I'm going to tell you, this is church right here.
Oh yeah.
This right here
I've heard
is
something
church.
similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lived that. Every day I didn't forgive, blood pressure spiking up. You know they can't take you off these medications if your blood pressure is high.
Right.
Soon as I gave it up and say, all right, guys, you guys, 132/82. Trait comes out my throat. They had to do swallow tests on me, Angela. I could start swallowing yogurt and orange juice and this, that, and the nurses are breaking out in a party. And, oh my God, he can swallow this. And he might be going home. I'm like, I might actually be going home. I was in the hospital. I wasn't even in the hospital a month. I was in the hospital, I think, 18 days total.
Mm. Definitely a turnaround.
Come on,
Definitely a
man.
turnaround.
18 days, 5 shots? That didn't make no sense. So, anybody listening to this right now, please, please look at the spiritual angle from this, look at the physical angle from this, the emotional angle. We're not here to win a contest on Facebook. We're not here to win a contest of who can be the pettiest. This
But
is
I want to be
your
Petty LaBelle, though. I want
I
to be
know.
Petty LaBelle.
Look, I'm just saying. I like, two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese. I want it too. You know what I'm saying? Like this, all inside of us. We want to have a little bit of that petty labelle. But the problem becomes as you get older, Angela, things get harder.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like
definitely.
things get harder. I was 36 when I got shot. I'm 41 now. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could go back to 36. So it takes you more time to recover from things. And if you know there's a physical component to forgiveness, I implore you to think about that today, because it's killing you. While the other person
Mm-hmm.
have forgot what they did to you 20 years ago, you harboring something from middle school, and they'd have moved on with their life. You'd be like, oh yeah, I think I remember you. You'd be like, what? You're the one that told me I was ugly and could never do. Man,
Yeah.
God, you have to not just let it go, because that's trite. I'm not going to just say let it go, but you have to come to grips with it. But forgiveness is releasing yourself, not the other person. Forgiveness
Mm.
is not tolerating foolishness. No, it is releasing yourself from the stranglehold that anger and resentment and revenge will put on you.
As Medea says, Medea is for you, not the other person.
Thank you. Person, but that's perfect. That's perfect. Absolutely.
Well, Jay Wilson, thank you so much for sharing your story, your testimony, part of your journey. Definitely looking forward to this book that's going to drop later this fall. Again, you can connect with Jay on Instagram, his website, and be a part of the 524 movement.
Yes, yes. Check me out on Facebook, everybody. Please like the page, spread it to somebody who needs this message. Please, please, please.
Well, enjoy the rest of your evening and thank you again.
Angela, I want to thank you so much for having me. You have a wonderful platform here. I wish you much success, and this is just the beginning. I plan on working with you in the future.
Look forward to it. Absolutely.
All right.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Well, that is it for this. I got to take a breath. Woo, because that was a lot. And it was amazing. That's it for Wednesday. And always, I would like to remind you all of 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great evening, everybody.